All right, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kendra Moss. I'm the program manager with the Los Padres Forest Association, and I'm so happy we could make this webinar happen. The magic and medicine of the Artemisias with director and founder of Artemisia Academy, Emily Sanders. Emily, thank you so much for being here. We're thrilled to have you. Emily has also volunteered with us in the LPFA on trail projects and just has so much amazing knowledge of
everything. It's a lot more.
Plants. Before we get started, I would love to ask just some housekeeping tips. We are recording this meeting and going to put it on YouTube. So if you don't want to show up on YouTube, please turn your cameras off. And we also ask that you stay on mute. We'll have some time at the end, I believe, for some questions. You can unmute yourself at that point and turn your cameras back on. I also just would like to start this meeting, as we do every meeting, with an acknowledgement of the indigenous communities on whose ancestral homelands we're gathered tonight. That includes the Chumash, the Salinan, the Esalen, the Satavium, and the Costanoan peoples, and we so respect their sovereignty, their rights to self-determination, and honor their sacred connection to the land and these medicinal plants as the original inhabitants and stewards of what's now designated as the Los Padres National Forest. And then before we really get into it, I just wanted to make a couple announcements on behalf of the LPFA. We've got some great events coming up in the next few months here that we're super excited about. The first is a volunteer event that we're doing on August 14th at Matilahaw Canyon. We've unfortunately heard there's a bunch of tagging that's happened there and a bunch of trail work that needs to happen. So we're going to be doing a bit of trail maintenance and a bit of graffiti removal on the 14th of August. Typically we do a first Saturday project, but this will be the second Saturday in Ojai, and we'd love to have you join us there. You can email volunteer@lpforest.org. I'll put that in the chat box in a minute, but we hope to see you there. The next event that we're doing is a little bit down the road in November. On November 6th, we're going to have our used gear sale, which we're super excited about. We're partnering up with Gossamer Gear, and we have a bunch of stuff at Tucker's Grove Park in Goleta. We lay it all out, and it's a great way for you to support the Los Padres, as well as to get some great, slightly used stuff and breathe some life back into them. And on that note, we're also seeking donations. So if you have an old backpack or old gear that isn't really getting its best use anymore, please feel free to contact us. Let us know. We'll come take it off your hands and set it up for someone else to get some use from it. So that's super exciting. This is all going to be shortly on our calendar of events on our website, but quick reminders to put it on your calendar now. And I just have to make a plug too for our summer membership drive, which is happening now and runs through the end of summer. We would love for you to join the LPFA as a member. All of the proceeds from our membership fund go directly back into the work that we're doing to care for the Los Padres and make sure that trails are well maintained and accessible for everybody. So we really do this work because we love the forest and we love to make sure that it's getting loved by people as well. So that's my little spiel, but now I'll turn it over to Emily. Emily is the director and founder of Artemisia Academy, Santa Barbara's only herb school. She's a trained herbalist. She's an amazing source of knowledge and medicine maker, and we're so thrilled for her to be here tonight. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kendra, and thank you guys all for coming in tonight. I'm just going to share my screen here. Everyone can see that. All right. Yeah, Kendra, I just want to say thank you so much for bringing in the acknowledgement to the indigenous people of the land. I think that's something that we don't get to speak of enough in our communities, and especially as we're talking about the magic and the medicine, the Artemisias. I do want to just say that the Artemisias are beautiful plants that are local to our area, as well as they're plants that are spanning the world. So we're talking about not just our medicine of our native people, but we're also talking about medicine from people all across the world that have used Artemisias globally. So a little introduction about me and my journey with plants. Like Kendra said, I'm the director and founder of the Artemisia Academy. The Artemisia Academy of Herbal Arts and Healing has been open now years. We're so excited that we have had, I think, now 9 herbal apprentice programs. And so we've been expanding over the last few years. I've been offering holistic education for the last 10 years to help people connect themselves connect them to themselves, their land, and their community. And our mission is to help healed healers make a bigger impact in their community. And what I mean by healed healers is that so often holistic practitioners get burnt out trying to help so many other people that they forget that they have to take care of themselves first. And so we really work on not just sustainability of the land, but also sustainability of ourselves so that we can take care of the people around us even more. So if those who don't know me, this is what I look like in my office. I still wear this hat. I still have some pretty geeky glasses and the same pair of overalls. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, but I always say that I didn't start out as a plant person. In fact, I was very disconnected from nature, and I thought that people that liked plants were nature freaks. I didn't know I'd become one of them. And then many years later, I had what I call my first encounter with herbal medicine. And so previously I thought that herbs came from, or I should say plants in general came from the grocery store. I didn't have a connection to farms or growing organic food or any of the things that we're so lucky and blessed to have in Santa Barbara. But it wasn't until I was taken out backpacking by a good friend of mine and got very sick in nature that I was given the opportunity to try herbs for the first time as the hospital's really far away, so I might as well try this because I don't know if I have another choice. Little did I know that simple mint tea is what saved my life many years ago from food poisoning out in the woods. And so that kind of detoured my life's path into studying organic farming and then eventually herbal medicine. And so that life detour is what kind of marked the path for figuring out my life's calling and what I should be doing in the world. And so much of this coincides beautifully with LPFA work because out on the trails is where I started my journey with plants, and out on my trails is where I find my connection with myself every day. So I discovered that herbs were everywhere after my first little encounter. And I started looking around, and everywhere I went, I was like, oh my God, there's plants, they're here, they do things, they help everyone out, oh my gosh. And my excitement began and turned into an absolute obsession. And so people started handing me herb books, and then I went on to herbal internships. I went down the road to do a 2-year clinical herb school study. And so I became a certified clinical nutritionist and herbalist, and then opened my own herbal practice. And through learning herb, I actually learned that healing others starts with healing myself first. It's really easy to get caught up with excitement of trying to help other people, and so little do we actually do that self-sustainability bit. And self-sustainability, I think, especially nowadays, needs to be looked at more and more because as people are using single-use objects like bottles and straws and all that sort of stuff, we use these things out of convenience because we don't have time to take care of ourselves. And so the more that we are taking care of ourselves, the more we can really take care of this beautiful planet that we're on. And that's what I eventually figured out was my main mission. So following my calling to protect the plants and heal the planet, I found the dream of the Artemisia Academy. So a lot of people ask, well, what is Artemisia? Artemisia is a mouthful of a word if you've never heard it before, but it actually comes from Artemis, the Greek goddess. And so I like to tell a little story about a dream of Artemis. So Artemis is the goddess of the hunt. That's how a lot of people know her as. She's the Greek goddess, virgin daughter of Zeus, twin sister of Apollo, the sun god, was left to rule the wild lands. She's associated with the moon, enjoyed the sport of the hunt, dancing with nymphs or forest spirits, and to the Romans was also known as Diana, the goddess Diana. However, I like to know her, or I think her better bits of her mythology is as the protector. She's the protector of the wild lands, of abandoned children, women in childbirth, and women in need. And in her she always takes on the form of wild boars and bears to show the full force of justice of Mother Nature. Many times there would be greedy hunters or people taking over too much of, what they were supposed to leave at peace for other people. And so she would always amorphosize into over and showing up as the true Mother Nature justice that we love. So she reminds us that both greed and compassion shall be met with equal reciprocity, and demonstrates that respect of and the balance with nature is the natural law and the true path forward. So in honor of Artemis, my academy, of course, is named after her. So the Artemisias is a beautiful plant or a group of plants that I love. And these are plants that I consider of great profound wisdom. And so there are these plants named after Artemis. So there's over 500 species of Artemisias around the world, covering mostly northern temperate areas. So they're mostly in the northern hemispheres. They've been used by many cultures for thousands of years, both for magic and medicine. And they're part of the Asteraceae, or the sunflower family. So a lot of people think of sagebrush, for example, as a sage family plant, but sagebrush is actually as well in the sunflower family. And so the genus Artemisia covers 3 common medicinal plants. And so some of these are local and some are non-natives. So both are mugwort and sagebrush. These are our native plants. So Artemisia douglasiana is mugwort, sagebrush, Artemisia californica, and wormwood, Artemisia absinthium. So let's talk about the magic and folk tales around these plants. So mugwort, if anyone has ever seen mugwort out on the trail, this is one of my favorites for sure. It has slender leaves that often have 3 to 5 pointed tips, somewhat resembling a trident. And the top surface is light green and the bottom is silvery. So it's got silvery or a very hairy white hair on the bottom. So it was the first plant that I ever learned. If anyone here has ever had poison oak, I really hope you know this plant. This one always seems to grow right next to poison oak along the creeks, along the trails, because it is another riparian zone or wet, marshy, damp loving plant. And so it typically grows right next to poison oak. And so if you're ever backpacking through it, hiking through it, you could take some of the leaves, rub it along your skin, and it acts as an anti-inflammatory topical remedy for poison oak once you have it, but as a preventative as well. It actually helps draw your skin tighter together, close your pores so that you don't let poison oak oils hopefully in and let them settle as much. So I'm backpacking, I'm collecting leaves and rubbing it on and hoping I don't get it if I've run through a bunch of poison oak. And then the scent is both musky and sweet. And so the tea, the stuffed herb pillow, and the essential oil have been used to enhance or bring on lucid dreams. Many people have also used mugwort as an herbal smoke or a smudge. And so just using these leaves in an herbal smoking blend is a great way to enjoy some of the lucid dreaming effects as well. I know some people that just being around the plant, I had a student once buy, a plant in nursery, put it next to their bed, and every day before they went to bed, they like would just put the little plant next to them and go to sleep. And they started having such vivid dreams from it that they had to put the plant outside because it was so strong. So they were having such intense dreams. So just the smell of it or just being around of it can help with that dreaming state. And so Chinese acupuncturists also use mugwort as a smudge stick to help clear blockages or stagnation in the meridians. And the essential oil can be diluted with regular, olive oil or massage oils and used topically for digestive pain and upset stomachs. So it has lots of different actions. So herbal actions are things that help, how does it affect the body? So it's an aromatic herb, meaning it's very smelly. It's astringent, so it pulls tissues tighter together. It's a bitter tonic, so it stimulates digestion. It's antispasmodic, a mild liver stimulant, and a menagogue, meaning it promotes menstrual bleeding. It's antibacterial and alterative, meaning it helps clear toxins out of the body. So externally, it's used for rashes, skin irritations, wounds, poison oak, itchy skin, and bad breath. And then internally for arthritis, eczema, psoriasis, loss of appetite, heartburn, digestive cramps, menstrual cramps, and upset. And so I always like to say that any herb that is an emmenagogue, meaning it promotes menstrual bleeding, is a lot of times too strong to be taken internally for pregnancy and childbirth. So just be aware of that and make sure that you use it with caution. Sagebrush. If anyone here has ever known sagebrush, it's also known as cowboy cologne or old man sage. And I always joke about it because it's cowboy cologne, meaning when you've been backpacking for too many days and you start smelling a little musky, this is a sweeter musk that you can rub on under all those different areas and help yourself smell a little better. So it's a large shrub or ground cover. And it's called old man sage sometimes because the foliage is summer deciduous, meaning the leaves die in the summertime due to lack of water. And so the leaves hang down underneath like a gray beard on the stem. And so it's not a true sage. It's still in the aster or sunflower family. And its smell is sweet and calming. However, if anyone's ever drinking sagebrush before, it's so bitter. I remember the first time I ever drank it, I went home, I was like so excited, I found sagebrush. And I went home and I ended up spitting it out all over my ceiling and my counter because it was so disgustingly bitter, I couldn't get through it. So it's not a sweet taste like it's just that smell is very deceptive. And so it's a very strong, potent, bitter flavor internally. So I've heard from different Chumash that they used to dry it and powder it, mix it with an oil or fat as a chest rub for coughs and colds. Nowadays, I actually use sagebrush as well as other sages or true salvias mixed together as almost like a Vicks vapor rub substitute, mixed into it as an oil or a salve. As a rinse for mouths, it could be a mouthwash for gum inflammations and infections. It could be anti-parasitic like wormwood. We'll talk about that in a sec. It's a strong antiseptic and it has bitter qualities that are also quite potent. And so this one's also another aromatic, astringent, so it helps pull those tissues tighter together. So great for rashes and wounds, a bitter tonic for stimulating digestion. So it's a emmenagogue, promotes menstrual bleeding. So again, caution on pregnancy and nursing mothers. It's great for liver and appetite stimulation. It's a mild laxative, antibacterial, expectorant, meaning it helps get out, sort of any sort of stuck up phlegm or congestion, and it's antispasmodic. And then externally, it's good for gums, a mouthwash for bad breath. It's good for rashes, skin inflammations, wounds, sinus congestion, and steams. So I like to make a steam of sagebrush, especially where you put a handful of herbs in a little bowl of water, you pour boiling water on top, put a towel over your head, and you just breathe in the steam. And then internally, it's also great for loss of appetite. So if you're not hungry before meals, taking a little taste of something bitter will stimulate the digestive reflex. So it's a digestive stimulant, helps with menstrual cramps and coughs as well. And then our last Artemisia is our wormwood, Artemisia absinthium. And so this is a small shrub. It has silvery complexion and a sweet aromatic scent. It's warming and bitter with a flavor with wonderful complexity. And so I always tell people if you taste it, it's kind of like going on a little roller coaster ride of a bitter flavor. And so this is something that I like to use as a digestive bitter, as in the traditional bitters. If you've ever heard of Swedish bitters, it's something that can be taken just a taste of it to stimulate the digestion, or nowadays they use bitters in a lot of alcohol drinks to change the flavors, like your gin and tonics. It has a little bitters in it for changing the flavors and giving it more aroma and flavor. So this is not a native versus the other two are. It is, however, grown commercially as a landscape ornamental plant. So I do see it around Santa Barbara, and for many years I thought it might have been native, but this specific species is not native. It's just been planted in people's yards. And so wormwood used to be known as wormwort. So wort was a common name for any sort of herb, a wort. So wormwort was useful for dispelling worms and parasites. So it's used to make absinthe. If anyone's ever heard of that alcohol, it's a spirit that was used for many years, and they said that it caused hallucinations. And so in the early 1900s, absinthe was banned because it was thought that extracts made from wormwood could cause major hysteria and cloud judgment. There are several instances of people being maybe drunker than they should be, and they blamed it, unfortunately, on the wormwood. So absinthe was known as the green fairy. And I always find it so funny that the green fairy, nymphs, Artemis, like these are very close mythology, tied pictures. Wormwood has a constituent called thujone, and thujone at high doses can cause seizures, damage the central nervous system. And it turns out that the original strength of the alcohol was not diluted with water. So more often than it being absinthe that caused hallucinations, it was the fact that people were drinking very, very potent alcohol and probably drinking too much that caused alcohol poisoning, which gave people some of those side effects. And so in the late 1900s, like 1988, that's when the absinthe ban was lifted in Europe. The United States, they still regulate it in different ways, but it can be bought here now. And so studies have they've looked at, there are still samples of some of the old absinthe around, and they found out that there was not enough of that thujone in the alcohol to cause damage, just enough for the bitter flavoring and aroma was ever used. So wormwood has many potent actions as well. So it's another aromatic, warming bitter. And this is interesting because a lot of bitters are cooling in nature to the body, but this is a warming bitter. So it's warms you up, makes you kind of flushed. It's what we call a diaphoretic. It makes you sweat, so it's specific for fevers. And it's also antispasmodic, meaning it relaxes muscles and relaxes digestive spasms. So it's a liver and digestive stimulant as well, and a menagogue, again, promoting menstrual bleeding, caution on the pregnancy and nursing mothers. It's antibacterial, antiparasitic, and expectorant, so colds and flus. So externally for rashes, skin irritation, itchy skin, bad breath, and then internally used for fevers, eliminating intestinal worms and parasites. It increases bile flow, increases menstrual flow, loss of appetite, arthritis, gas, bloating, and mild constipation. So all of these plants are fabulous friends to have, and there's nothing like knowing a good friend but not knowing what they're around for. And so I always like to leave people with a few recipes of simple how-tos so that you can try playing with some of these herbs at home. So I always love making dream pillows. If you guys are looking for a good gift for a friend or something to make before Christmas, this is an easy go-to. And you just take a couple of ounces of dried herbs, and I like to mix a few different or calming herbs together. So mugwort is typically one of them. Lavender, catnip, chamomile. You can use quite a few different ones if you like, but you can also just use one herb if that's all you have. And then you can just use any kind of grain, typically rice, sometimes buckwheat, something like that, to give it a little bit of weight. And so you fill a cloth sack or a small pillowcase with dried herbs and rice, you mix it up, and then sew the pillowcase shut. And then, you can decorate it however you like. So some people put buttons, some people put stitching on it, you name it. And then just use that as your relaxing dream pillow. And some people, I know in the massage world, I used to use these a lot for putting over your eyes when you're getting a massage, or just to cover up your eyes so that you cover up the darkness and you get better sleep. That weight and the smell really does a lot. Another fabulous one with a different picture, unfortunately, is a mugwort spray for poison oak. And so if anyone here has gotten poison oak, you get the itchy red rash that tends to spread if you don't stop it in time. And so poison oak is a resin, not an oil. And so resins are spread by heat and oil. And I'm going to say that again, resins are spread by heat and oil. So if you go home and take a hot shower, you might spread it, as well as a lot of people think, oh, I've got a great skin healing salve, I'll put that on it. that's a great way to spread poison oak all over as well. And so I like to use a vinegar or an apple cider vinegar or rubbing alcohol based spray. And so you just soak mugwort leaves. So you can take a jar, chop up mugwort and put it into a jar no more than 3/4 filled, and then cover with apple cider vinegar or rubbing alcohol. And once it's completely covered, you let it sit for 2 weeks. And this is what we call an herbal infusion. And so we're letting it sit, do nothing with it, keep it in a cool, dark place in a cupboard for a few weeks, strain it with a mesh strainer, and then you can put it in a spray bottle and apply it as needed. And so I always like to say, if you're highly allergic to poison oak, it may not stop it, but it might bring down some of the inflammation and just give you temporary relief so that you can get through the night a little bit easier. Okay, this is a popular one. If anyone's heard about Dr. James Adams, he is a fabulous researcher down south in Los Angeles. He's always talked about the sagebrush pain liniment. He's done a lot of sagebrush. And so sagebrush topically can be used actually for a lot of pain relief. So some people use it as a foot soak, and that's what I've done for many years. Just, chopping up the leaves, putting it on hot water and soaking your feet in for about 20-30 minutes. And that helps to relieve pain, not just in the feet, but sometimes in the lower back, in the legs and the ankles. And then for topical spray-on relief, this is a great remedy. So taking dried sagebrush, rubbing alcohol, and an avocado pit. And Dr. James Adams, he typically tells people to put 1 white sage leaf in there as well. You guys get to do what you like. I like to use white sage very, very sparingly and with respect. So it's up to you. The directions is to fill up a jar with chopped sagebrush. Again, I don't like to fill a jar all the way filled. And that's because if I'm filling up a jar all the way and then I got to cover it with some sort of liquid, I won't have any room to cover it if it expands. And so I like to make sure that the herbs are lower in the jar and then fill it with rubbing alcohol and then add that avocado pit. And you can just, shake it a couple of days, but let it sit for 2 to 3 weeks, strain it with a mesh strainer, and then apply it with a cotton ball or cloth as needed. And so some people spray it on, some people will rub it on, whatever feels best for you, but it's great for joint pain, neck and back pain, you name it. It's a really fabulous topical relief. And then we have wormwood bitters. So if anyone ever wants to make their own bitters are traditionally a cocktail of many different bitter herbs, but you can also make a bitter with just 1, 2. And so please correct this here. So it's instead of a dried sagebrush, apologies for that, it's dried wormwood. So you add in your dried wormwood and then 40% alcohol. So this can be any sort of alcohol that you buy from the store for drinking. So this is table alcohol versus cleaning alcohol. And so vodka, rum, brandy, I like to choose something that tastes better because then I'm more likely to use it. And so this one, you're just soaking your chopped wormwood with alcohol, completely covering the herb. Again, letting it sit for a few weeks, strain it, and then this you can take by the dropperful. So if you're using a little tincture bottle, it's 1 to 2 dropperfuls before meals to stimulate the appetite, or you could take it after meals to help with digestion, specifically to help with gas and bloating. And again, for mugwort and wormwood and sagebrush, all of these are not to be taken internally if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or just in general if you're on medication for a serious condition. Always talk to your doctor before taking herbs. Okay, so coming full circle, I like to talk about the law of reciprocity, because so many people get so excited about seeing herbs on the trail. They're like, oh my gosh, that is mugwort. I know what mugwort is. I'm going to take it home. I'm going to make plant medicine with it. It's so exciting. And I love that people are excited about herbs, but I like for us to learn a little bit about respecting herbs before we just start taking them. And so I always say it's better to give before you take. And just pretend for a second that you're having a relationship with a friend. If all you did was take, then very quickly your friends can be like, hey, you're not really cool. This is called abuse. We're gonna go away now. All right. And unfortunately, plants don't have the ability to speak up quite like people do. So I like to instill this culture of mutual respect, building a relationship with nature rather than just taking what we want and never giving anything back. So before you start taking plants from the wild, I always tell people, I don't even allow my first year students to harvest. I wait until people are halfway through their second year program before they start harvesting, because it takes several years of being on the trail to see what's happening to a stand over time. Sometimes herbs will be really thriving one year, but within a few years, due to drought, people, just general, problems going on in the forest, bugs, plants, you name it, a little herbal stand might disappear very quickly if it's not taken care of the right way. And especially trails that are very public that we walk on in the front country, those are places that many people might get the idea to harvest from, and very quickly the entire stand will get eradicated without us knowing it. So I like to make sure that people spend time in nature and really build that relationship, see what's going on before they start taking from it. So it's better to not take anything from nature without strict permission. And so if you're really instilling this culture of giving before you take, that means taking nothing whatsoever. And observing and appreciation. So often I go out on a trail and, just the fact that I get to see beautiful views of Santa Barbara for all up and down the trail, that is the gift that I get. And if I want something more, I have to give back first. So if you want to take anything like a plant, dead or alive, an animal, dead or alive, or rock, fungus, feather, whatever we do, we're leaving an impact on the trails and on that place for years to come. So if people don't know what permission means, permission could be from the plant. And so people that have done herb classes before, been on plant walks with me before, you understand that sometimes you can actually have this conversation with a plant and sit down and just know, listen, close your eyes. I know it's weird to say we talk to plants, we're herbalists, we're all the time, but to sit down and see if you get that gut feeling of, are you supposed to be here or are you disrespecting? And one of my students once said a really great phrase. It was, if you always get a yes that you're allowed to harvest, chances are you're not really listening. And so I had one of my best teachers said that he didn't get permission to harvest for over 10 years as an herbalist before he started getting the yeses to come. So I think it's really important for us to really be patient and to really learn to listen. If you're not really good at having that internal check-in, then you can go elsewhere for permission. And I really love asking permission from the people that were here first. Do you have permission to harvest on our Indigenous people's land? Do you have permission to harvest from the landowner's land? So if you're harvesting, it's legal to harvest on private property if you get permission from the landowner. And then lastly, if you're out in the forest, the Forest Service, technically it's illegal to harvest on national forest without permits. And so the law stops some people, doesn't stop others, but I like to just say, it at least gives you that idea that there's respect and there's somebody keeping an eye out to make sure we're not collectively over harvesting, because we want to make sure that these herbs are here for generations to come. So if you want to learn to give back, I like to say it's time to take part in the story. So the story of being a part of nature, whereas we're not separate from it, but we're part of this natural law, this natural justice of, if we give more, we'll get more in return. If we take more, we will have less later. It's really important to make sure that we're keeping that balance at all times. So I always like to say, get back into the backcountry. I have loved so much working with the Los Padres Forest Association over the last few years. It's been a great journey for me, learning how to backpack. That is me there, yes, learning how to backpack. And I've gone from kind of timid and afraid of getting out to being around amazing people on the trails, hearing beautiful stories of all the amazing backcountry areas and secret, places that I've never heard about. And every time I'm out on the trail with people, I learn more about the land, I learn more about the plants, and I learn a lot more about myself too. So doing restoration or trail maintenance is not just a great workout. If you guys have never done it, it's just a really great way to meet fabulous people and to be outside and to love our beautiful backcountry. So if you guys want to learn to give back, learn by working with others that already do it. So Los Pardos Forest Association is at the top of my list. I like to hang out with them as much as I can. The Channel Islands Restoration is another great group in town. Santa Barbara Botanic Gardens, they have both backcountry projects as well as you can help with their nurseries, you can help with their just, regular front desk stuff. They have positions for every skill level. The Gaviota Coast Conservancy, they're protecting our Gaviota coastlands. And then Sage Trail Alliance, they're mountain bikers that are keeping our trails alive so that they can explore and enjoy the trails as well. And then if you're not ready to go out with other, sometimes you can just start by your own little herb garden. And so if you're really excited about harvesting this plant, then go and buy it from the nursery and build that relationship by watering it, by giving it food, by interacting it with it every single day. There's not local nurseries to support, like the Botanic Gardens, Island Seed and Feed, SB Natives Nursery, and Yes Yes Nursery. And then if you guys want to buy herbs locally from a small herb shop in town, we have a fabulous women-run apothecary called Pura Luna Apothecary. And they're a fabulous couple of ladies running it, and a bunch of now my graduated herb students are working there too. So please pass it on and support them as much as you can. And then if you want to buy herbs online, I always encourage you guys to purchase from sustainable sources. And that means organic and fair trade. So if people are growing these herbs organically and they're paying people the fair wage for their labor. And so I try not to buy wild harvested herbs unless I know it's a plant that's in absolute abundance. And until you're really familiar with herbs, it's gonna be hard for you to know what's abundant and what's not. So until you do, these are a few great resources to look from. So Mountain Rose Herbs, Oshala Farms, Pacific Botanicals, and Frontier Herb Co-op. These are all places that I source my herbs from. They're fabulous farms and just amazing companies. And then lastly, if you want to learn plants, go and learn them and really spend some time with them. And so I do herb walks monthly with the Gaviota Coast Conservancy. We usually do them the last Saturday, one of the last 2 Saturdays of the month. And then Lonnie Coffer is another fabulous herbalist out in Ojai. He's on the Ojai Herbal Symposium, which hopefully will be coming back next year. We'll see. And then if you guys are interested in introductory classes, we have our Intro to Plant Identification, where we cover 50 local plants of Santa Barbara area and the local ecosystems. We get to tour different trails in town and get to know the plants on a really personal level. Our Herbs for the Body course is where we're going through each body system and learning herbs specifically for how to care for ourselves in many different ways. And then our medicine making for a beginners course is specific for those who want to learn how to make salves, tinctures, oils, syrups, you name it. And you don't want to do it alone, we've got your back. We do it all with you right there live over Zoom in our own kitchen. So it's a ton of fun. And then for those who want to learn a bit more, we now have 2 fabulous herbal programs. The Herbal Apprentice program is just for beginners, people who want to dive in and see if herbalism is just for them. And our Community Herbalist program is for those who are looking to really become an herbalist and follow down that path and figure out how to make that more into their life's calling and their daily passion and activities. So we have lots of fun for all different levels wherever you're at. So if anyone's interested in learning more about the school, you can just Google us, Santa Barbara Herb School. You can go to our website, ARTEMISIA'Academy.com. We're definitely on Instagram. Please follow us, like us, and say hello anytime. And then if you guys want to reach out, you can email us at info@ARTEMISIA'Academy.com. So I just want to say thank you all so much for coming. Please take care of these plants and have fun exploring herbal medicine. I just want to say thank you again, Los Pardos Forest Association. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you, Kendra, for having me, of course. And we'll open it up for questions if anybody has any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. So great to learn all of that. And I'm so inspired to learn more. I hope everyone here is too. There were a couple questions in the chat that I want to read out first, and then we can open it up to everybody else. So Veronique asked, what about Artemisia annua? Can you use that instead of another Artemisia you talked about?
That's a great question. I am looking it up right now. I have not heard of that one. And I'll have to get back to you about it because it's a new one for me. There's a couple other species of Artemisia that I just learned about looking up stuff for this class. And so the many species across the board, Artemisias you see have the same.
Oh, Emily.
As in, you know.
Sorry, you froze for a second, Emily.
Okay, I'm back. All right. A lot of the Artemisias have the same precautions to not be used in pregnancy, childbirth, or any sort of severe liver or just in general health conditions. But with a little bit more research, it might be able to be substituted. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. There was a request to show your recommendations for the nurseries one more time, if you could.
All right, let me pull that up just a second. And hold on.
Take your time.
Right buttons. Here we go. Okay. Santa Barbara Botanic Gardens is, of course, my favorite for the native nurseries, especially the kind of annuals and things that you'd have to plant more often. SB Natives is a nursery for bigger landscaping jobs, and a lot of times the perennials like the trees and bushes. And I really love that they do a lot of their own, if not all of their own, seed collection. And so they know a lot about the genetics of the plants specifically growing here. They're really fabulous. Island Seed and Feed have some natives and of course fabulous things for growing in your garden. And then Yes Yes Nursery is out of, I believe, San Ynez. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Los Olivos, I think.
Yeah, Los Olivos. And they have a lot of natives there as well. Yeah. Okay, any nurseries for these exact plants? I know that the Botanic Gardens and Island Seed and Feed definitely have some of these. And then SB Natives, I would guarantee that they have Sagebrush. Wormwood, you might actually find more often at some of the regular garden nurseries like La Sumida or Terrasol Nursery, stuff like that, because that's more of a cultivated variety in this area. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Oh, Veronica, you said it's used against, okay, thank you very much. Artemisias are used against malaria, and I have not heard of it being used against COVID. It doesn't surprise me though. Thank you very much for passing that along.
Hi,
Right.
Emily. My name's Rick.
Hi, Rick.
And I had a question on Mugwort. Is the bottom furry, silvery side way better than the top green side to rub it on?
For rubbing it on, the entire plant has the astringent properties. The furry side I consider to be more absorptive. How do I say it? It absorbs better, but I don't think it really matters. I think you can use any part of it. There's been a few times that I've crawled through the poison oak tunnels and then, you know, rubbed down with mugwort and then gone and done my quick wash and, you know, a foot of water in the creek. And that seemed to do the trick. How much was the mugwort? How much was the creek water? Can't tell you, but it's been helping me out a lot this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Rick, were you out on the trail with me a few months ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Sweet, good to see you.
Yeah, same.
Cool.
Emily, it looks like there's a question about if the mugwort spray will also work as an anti-itch remedy for mosquito bites.
It'll definitely help a little bit. I find that there's an invasive weed called plantain, works way better for mosquito bites. But it really depends on how much you've gotten bit. I just went backpacking a few days ago and got bit head to toe. It was a hot night. I couldn't stand a sleeping bag, and you know, I would rely on my mugwort spray or sagebrush more at that point if I know I've been going through a lot of time on plants, and if there's any hint of poison oak in there, I'll use that. Oh goodness, there's a long list. You the board herb area, definitely need to check it out. Anybody offhand remember the title of it? I'll have to look it up real quick. Let's see if I can find it. I'll find it really quick, guys. Okay, someone else asked a question while I'm looking that one up.
All right, there was a question about Artemisia tridentata basin sagebrush and what that could be used for.
So big basin sagebrush can be absolutely substituted for our coastal sagebrush. Use them interchangeably. Coastal sage or big basin sagebrush just has a, you know, fatter leaves, I would say, and it's the trident is more defined. Maybe I can pull up a picture of that one in just a second. And sorry, I'm looking up too many things at once. I'll just find two things here. I love the power of Google and the fact that I can look up pictures very quickly. So I'm gonna just share. So this is our big basin sagebrush, and big basin sagebrush has really fatter, you know, shorter leaves versus our coastal sagebrush has a little bit stringier, elongated, thinner leaves. So they both work quite fabulously. I think big basin sagebrush is a little bit better for the smell. It's a little stronger, like you can smell it from much further away. Is the essential oil really more potent? I don't know. I can't tell you. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm also looking up Lonnie's book. Here we go. So this is really exciting. Lonnie Coffer just came out with this book, and it looks like it is already for sale. And so the medicinal herbs of California, it covers a lot of our local herbs, has fabulous pictures and really great information about harvesting and sustainability and, you know, whether they're endangered or not. And so I really appreciate that perspective. And then the other local book, I'm just going to grab real quick, is Sue Reinhardt. Let's see here. So Sue Reinhardt writes, this is the medicinal and poisonous plants of this California Central and South Coast by Sue Reinhardt. And so she used to do herb walks in Santa Barbara for many years, and is now retired and enjoying her life, getting to you know, enjoy life a little bit more on the slow path. And so I like to pass on her book as much as I can. It's required reading in my classes because it covers all of our local plants here quite beautifully and great pictures. So, all right. Any other questions?
Hold on, Rick. I'm gonna unmute you.
Can you show that last book again? Yes, here you go. I'll keep that up for a second.
Emily, I had one more question on mugwort.
Yeah, please.
You mentioned rubbing it on your skin before poison oak. Is there any negative side effect to just rubbing it all over your body, you know, first thing in the morning before you hit the trail?
First of all, you'd have to harvest a lot more mugwort. It doesn't last that long. One leaf covers like, you know, one arm. That's pretty much the amount that I've found. I also think that the astringent properties of it only last so long. And so I find it better to use it right before heading through a big patch. It's something that definitely you want to, use sparingly, just so that you're not taking over an entire bush or shrub of it, but you're just, respectfully taking 1 or 2 plants from a giant stand of it. And so that would be a much more sustainable way to go. Absolutely.
Like it won't last all day. It might last just an hour on your skin.
I would say that effect of it is probably only like an hour or so long. I don't think it would last for hours, especially if you're working on a trail or hiking and you're sweating. If you're sweating, you're probably going to be washing that off through your sweat pretty quickly. So, great question.
And what about eating a couple leaves of mugwort when you're on the trail?
It will not work as a preventative by eating it. Great question. I wish it did. I find the mugwort spray or sagebrush spray to be a good way as a, not just like afterwards when you're dealing with inflammation. You can also do that topically beforehand as well. Side, I'd have to do more research and let you know. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
And do we have wormwood in our backcountry as an invasive species?
Thank you. What was that?
Do we have wormwood in our backcountry as an invasive species?
I looked on CalFlora this morning and didn't see much reference of wormwood in our county, and I was a little surprised by that. I've seen it a couple of times, and I don't know if it just happened to escape somebody's yard or what, but it wasn't reported on CalFlora. I'm gonna do a little bit more research on the iNaturalist app and see if I can find more information from a couple of trails, and I can't tell you different species of Artemisias that I haven't keyed out or what. I have to look around a little bit more. So somebody in the chat says, I know the Spanish name of one of the herbs is estafiate. Please correct me if I'm saying that wrong. I'm sure I am. Do you know if that's wormwood or mugwort? I've gotten mixed info on this. Great question. And that's why common names are so confusing, because there's so often people use the wrong name. I've also seen mugwort called wormwood multiple times in different places around the world. So people mix up the names. And so altogether, the Artemisias do have a very similar profile. They probably can be used more interchangeably than I've put them together in my own brain or I've seen in different materia medicas. You'd have to do a little more research, and you'd have to see if any Spanish herb books referenced it with a Latin name attached. And that's why that Latin name is so important to tell which one they're talking about. So great question. And then Carrie says, I have found both mugwort and sagebrush easy to grow. I appreciate the recipes and all the great info. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, I took Spanish at one point and I still butcher it. I'm so sorry. I'm supposed to be part Mexican, but I never learned it at the right age, so it's terrible when I try and talk it. All right, anyone else? Great.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us. This was so interesting, and I hope we can do future events. Potentially maybe an even in-person medicine making event. I've taken a class with Emily before and I learned so much and was so inspired. So thank you for all that you're doing to spread knowledge and especially, to give back to the natural world, because that is a huge component, as you mentioned. So thank you for being here, everybody. And we hope to see you again, Emily, out on the trail or in a future webinar or in-person class soon.
Thank you so much, Kendra, and definitely look forward to meeting some of you guys out on the trails too. Please join LPFA's fun trail work. It's worth it, you guys. Every cent, every minute of it.
Definitely. Well, take care, everybody. Have a great night, and we hope to see you at our future events soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Kendra. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks. Bye-bye.